Okay, so I'm sitting next to the daisies, and you can see that some of them are blooming, but some clearly are spent and they need to be deadheaded. So there's a specific way that you can deadhead them. You could just shear them like other perennials, but of course I like to cut them one by one because that way it gives them more chance to have flowers that I would otherwise cut off if I sheared them. I'll show you. You can see some of them are very obviously spent. The petals have browned, whereas this one still has white petals. So if you look at this one and you follow the stem down, you can see that right here there's a little leaf growing. If you follow the stem all the way down and you look where the leaves meet the stem, you can see that's the first set of leaves that is coming from the stem. It's a little set of leaves, and from in between that set of leaves there's a little bud. So I'm going to cut right above it. Here's another example. Follow the stem. I don't see any buds until right there. So that's where I want to cut. And this is a good example why. This is a spent bloom, but right here is a nice one still. And it is coming from a bud just like what we spared on the other stems. But I do want to get rid of this one, so I'm going to follow the stem down and cut here. Leaving the nice bloom. And actually looks like this one was eaten. Let's cut that one too. I already know there was a flower here, so I'm going to cut that part too. There won't be another one. There. And if you go even further, you can see that there's another set of leaves here where there may be a flower growing at some point. This is another good example. This is spent, and here's one that's blooming. And if you follow them both down, you see that they're coming from the same stem. Right here. I just want to get rid of the one that's spent, so I'm going to follow the stem to a spot as low as I can, but not too low because there's another one coming from it right there. So I'd say right here is a good spot. And that leaves these two to grow. There's another spent bloom, following the stem. I see a little leaf right here, so I'll cut there. Here's one that's spent, and if I follow the stem, you can see there's a little bud right there. That is a little flower bud. So I want to cut just above it. That way all the energy goes to that bud instead of making seeds. Here's a spent bloom. Attached to it is one that looks like it was broken or eaten, but it was a secondary bloom anyway because it attaches right here. But look at that, there's a bud right there. So I'm going to cut both of those above this bud. These two right here are attached to each other as well, down here. And I don't see any new buds. Oh, yes I do, down there. So I'll cut above them. Actually, I still like this one, so I'll leave this one even though it's kind of being eaten or something. I don't know, it's withering a little bit. But I'm just going to get rid of this one right here. Leaving this one and the new bud. Here's one that's spent. So again, I'm just going to follow the stem down to the new bud that's right there. There it is there. And it looks like there are 2 flowers coming from it, 2 stalks, but both of them are spent, so I can cut them off. Here's one that's spent with a little bud right there. It's 4th of July. Here we have 3 flowers that are coming from one stem, and I see a bud down at the bottom. Maybe not a bud, but a potential bud, so I'll cut these off. So we're just going to continue doing that, cut off the ones you want to cut off. If they're not perfect, you can leave them, but if you cut them, it'll give more energy to flowering rather than seed making. Here are 3 more, but I want to keep this one because it's still, you know, pretty okay. This one is not that great because it looks like bugs have been eating it, and this one's obviously spent, so they're attached to one. Actually, I think I'm going to take them all off because there is a potential bud. This one has a potential bud right here. So I'm going to cut it there. Here's one with a kind of ugly, tattered flower and a totally spent one. But I'm going to keep the kind of ugly one and just cut the totally spent one. So that the plant still has some semblance of daisiness. There is a little bud right there. Looks a little dry, so I don't know if it's going to actually produce any flowers. There's a spent flower, and it looks like there's a little bud right here. Here's a set of 2, and I see a little leaf right here, which makes me think there might be a bud there. So I'm going to cut above it. If you see any leaves like this, you can just pull them up. You can already see kind of the dent I've made by deadheading the ones that I've deadheaded so far. Still have to do this side, but it looks a lot cleaner and fresher. This right here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flowers stemming from the same branch. And if you go down to the bottom, don't know if there are any buds. Right here there are some extra leaves, so I might just cut the whole thing right there. This stem has 4 flowers coming from it, but they're still nice, so I only want to take off this one here, and still gonna cut it as low as I can. And that leaves those ones. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut it right there. There we go. It was not easy to get into. Oops. So here we have just half of a daisy left, and then this. It kind of looks like a little bumblebee. But anyway, they come from the same area, and I've already cut something from that spot. I think I'll leave this one though and just cut the one that's the bumblebee shape. Oh hi, Valen's here.
Oh.
So this one, there are 3 coming from it, and I don't see any new flowers, so I'm just going to cut them off above some leaves, like here. So this spent bud right here has several buds. 1, 2. I keep calling it a spent bud, but it's a spent flower. There's a bud, there's a bud. So I want to spare that one, of course. I'm just gonna cut right there. We just have a few more that need to be cut. 1, 2, 3. I don't want to cut this one because our little friend is living right there. But this one right here has a little bud there, so I'll cut like that. Of course, I broke a few of them, so I'll just cut them off, break them off, and put them in a little vase. Maybe behind my ear. There. That's pretty much it. I'm done. I know they're not perfect, but I like them just the way they are. I'll have to come back and deadhead them soon. That way it will give the ones that I left, the little buds that I left, an opportunity to grow bigger and stronger. Otherwise, I think it still looks good. And after all that, you're left with a nice little daisy bouquet. Not a very nice smell, but kind of a lot of flowers. That's a firefly.